Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Hot Takes, and the hot take this week is that Dan's wearing a Hotspawn hoodie.
Wow, I don't know if you can see this on the camera.
Hell yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
matching.
finally got. I mean, we're both pretty crazy for wearing it in like 20-degree weather, but you have to do what you've got to do.
That's it. That's what we do here at Hotspawn. We
Yeah,
make stuff happen, and we
yeah,
make people wear hoodies in the height of summer.
yeah. Even though we have hot spawn t-shirts,
Which we both chose not to
which
wear
we, yeah,
first.
and we didn't coordinate that, so
Nope.
it's just bad decisions all around.
I mean, something something, your pickums were also a bad decision.
I'm not going to escape this level to like forever. Like I think
No.
the words I've been using to describe it, like all around, is like going back to do it has been like a humiliation ritual. Like every time I update the article, like I'm like, man, I really hope that like no one has followed this like all the way through. But it's fine. It's fine. I'll do better at Budapest, hopefully.
It'll all be okay, as we
Yeah, yeah,
said.
yeah.
You're only doing badly because you know things about Counter-Strike.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't even. What did we? I can't even remember what we discussed last time out. Like in terms of what stage the major was at. I think since I've done the playoff pickums,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, we were talking about stage 3 last time, like, heading
okay.
into it.
Yeah. Okay. That obviously didn't go well because why would it? Why would it have gone well?
So
Typically.
who have you got winning it now?
Well,
FaZe?
yeah. So I don't think FaZe are gonna win it, but like I have followed my head at every stage of this, and now like my head says yeah, Vitality, even still they're gonna win it. Like it just makes sense, but like this
Mhm.
is the major of stupid things happening, and like there is nothing more stupid than Simple coming in, standing in, and just winning a major on like his first attempt. Like there is nothing dumber that could happen than that,
Yep.
realistically. So yeah, I've put FaZe. I think, to be honest, like they have a very realistic route to the final, which,
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll get into when we get into the playoff bracket, but you'd expect them to get to the final at this point, which is like pretty insane just off luck of the draw. Like, and once you're in the final, like anything can happen
Yeah,
because
that's
it's so
exactly
much
it. I mean,
more.
as we said last time, those best of 3 finals, they really
Yeah,
pull out the wildest CS.
yeah.
Um,
So,
I mean, I know
so
you've been saying it since day one, Vitality are not gonna win the major, and we're about to find out whether you're right.
yeah, I mean, that would be like very funny about like being wrong about so much in a row. And then my prediction that I've had since what, like February,
Yep.
March, when
Mhm.
when they were winning everything. That's what's right. Like that would just be typical.
Yep,
Yeah.
it really every week we introduce you. Dan, our Counter-Strike expert, has
Who
once again
gets
got all of the pick'ems wrong.
I checked, right? I've had 9 correct picks, like total. There was one stage where I got 2.
You could pull names out of a hat and get better than that.
You could yeah, you could probably have got 2 or more by pulling names out of a hat for these stages for sure.
Okay, so I guess the question is, what game are you gonna pick up next? Because CS isn't working out.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe back to Halo. Take it back. Yeah.
No, we'll get you on Dota. It's the only option.
Ugh, I've tried Dota. I have tried. I'm not very good. Let's just say that. MOBAs, I'm just not very good.
I mean, neither am I, but it's all good. We style it out.
At least you know what's happening. Like I look at a MOBA and I'm like, nope. I
I think the beauty of CS over a MOBA is like when you're playing CS, you always know where your mouse is. Like you're playing
yeah,
Dota and you're just like,
true,
I don't know where I'm clicking.
true. Yeah, no, the learning curve is very different for both. But
Well, we heard it here first. That's where we're going next. So let's talk about this playoff bracket.
mhm, yeah, so
We've got
we can go through game by game, just chronologically.
yep.
Um, First up is Spirit and Mars. I don't know if you have any takes
I
about this
mean,
one.
that's a grand final right there, that
Yeah,
matchup.
yeah. I mean, for me, what is sort of interesting about this is that their form in this tournament sort of is directly the opposite to how matches between these teams have gone this year. So I had a little look. These two teams have played twice this year. Not
Hmm.
loads. This was, I want to say they played in February and March, like very close together to each other. And Miles won both of them 2-1. So, from that you would think, okay, Miles come to this one as the favorite, but when you actually look at what these teams have been doing in the major, like Miles, I mean, they got through to the playoffs, but the absolute skin of the teeth definitely
Yeah,
shouldn't
and
be
then you
there.
see
I think
Spirit at the top of the bracket, like they went 3-0, so.
like this is the best Spirit have looked in a while,
Hmm.
really. So I still have to sort of favor Spirit in this one. In my predictions article for Hotspawn, I went with Spirit. I went with 2-1. I just think it'll be, you know, I think it'll be slightly more interesting as well. Maybe I'm going again with my heart there, but I think seeing Spirit go further will be more interesting.
Yeah,
And
I
but I
think
got
Spirit are interesting to me in the way that we have these conversations about players like Nico, and they do
Mhm.
really, really well, and they just fall apart at a major.
Yeah.
Spirit, I'm not going to say they're the opposite, but it's not far off. Like
Well,
they often struggle at other events, and then at a major, they just completely pull it out the bag. No one saw Shanghai coming.
yeah. Well, I've got like a little theory about Spirit and about sort of like peaking at the right time.
Mm,
So, like Katowice 2024, they win the first event of the year.
yeah.
Then they don't do jack shit until the middle of the year. They won the Blast Spring Final. Dot
Hmm.
on middle of the year. Second half of the season, don't do shit again. And then at the very end of the year, they just pull it out the bag and win the major. They start 2025. They win Blast Bounty. They don't do jack shit in the middle of the year. They come to
Well,
the middle of the
since
year. They come to Austin and they look good again. So
yeah.
like they come in like start and the middle of the year, and that is like all they're here for.
Yeah, which is interesting because I can't imagine that's by design. Like, if you're
No,
going to design your season, you're going to have Vitality season and then you're going to end on
yeah,
a major.
yeah. I
But
mean, I
it
mean,
just seems like there's something about that major that's pulling the best at Counter-Strike out of them.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I just think it's a more interesting narrative if you get sort of Donk going for his second major than
Yeah.
say Miles chasing their first as a team. And I've been pretty outspoken about like how Miles just like have no aura. What I think it is with Miles is that they're just a little bit auraless. Like, like they all seem like lovely people, but they are
Yep.
just devoid of aura. Like I've said it before, like a few times, but
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
gonna repeat it because, like, if like Apex wins the major with Vitality, he's like that night he's like celebrating by like drinking directly out of the trophy.
I've seen him do it in the hotel at IEM
Uh,
Cologne. Yep.
Like exactly, like that's exactly that's what's happening.
He did exactly that,
Whereas
pouring
like
champagne right in the trophy.
Whereas, like, let's say if Miles go on to win the major, like they're celebrating with like a carton of Ribena and like a 9 p.m. bedtime. Like, it's just not very interesting, you know?
It's funny because it's true. Like, they're
Yeah.
not party people, you
No,
know?
and I'm not saying you have to be like party people. I'm just saying like it's just not compelling. It's not a compelling narrative. And Spirit, yeah. If Donk wants to go and get fucking chicken nuggets from McDonald's because he wins the major, great. I don't know if you ever saw that
You still
video.
have the aura to pull that off, though.
Did you ever see the video after they won Shanghai?
No, I don't think so.
So that Spirit released a vlog, and the fucking first thing he asked for after winning the major, he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to McDonald's and get chicken nuggies." And they were like, "Yeah, you can have whatever you want."
Yeah, I mean, was he even 18 by that point?
No, no,
Yeah,
he was
no.
literally a child.
You celebrate as is in an age-appropriate way.
Yeah, No,
I'm
but
sure that's all he did, and we're just believing that at face value.
yeah. No, like yeah, Spirit should have sort of based on form alone at the minute. It should have what it takes to take Miles here.
Hmm.
Donk, I believe he's the second highest rated player at the tournament at the minute.
Yeah.
I can very quickly check that because that sounds a little bit right. Yeah, second highest rated at 1.54, and then you've got Shiro at 1.42, third. So like individually, they're absolutely flying.
Yep. Which is
Whereas,
interesting because it's less just riding on Donk's coattails. Like if
yeah,
Shiro is also putting in these kinds of numbers, then I don't know, maybe then Donk might smile if he lifts that trophy.
yeah,
We can live in
maybe.
hope.
Wow, I think you'd probably get one for a second major, yeah. And then like even then, so you've got Magic's at 1.27. You've got Zontix at 1.08. So, for context, that's 4 Spirit players before you reach the first Mars player. So
Right. Yeah,
Spinks
yeah.
is the highest at 1.08. Like he is next to Zontix. Like
On paper, this is pretty cut and dry for Spirit
it,
in that case. But
yeah, but obviously the fact that Mars are just one of them teams that can just like switch on
yeah.
and just when you're at this level, you're very much splitting hairs.
Yeah, it's unpredictable on the day for them, I find. Like if they show up on the day, they can really dominate.
Yeah.
But you are sort of from a viewer perspective, you're kind of rolling the dice as to whether they're even going to show up on
Yeah,
that
like
day.
the only reason they're here is because the teams that like could have knocked them out
Mm.
in stage 3, like it was just too soon for them, and the pressure sort of got to them. So these teams lost against Miles, whereas Miles didn't really have to win against them. And maybe
Yeah, I
that,
mean, this is what we said about when Falcons bombed out. We were like, if I was Maus, I'd be pretty happy right now.
yeah, yeah. But ultimately now, really, I mean, a bracket aside, you're still looking at Spirit and Vitality as the 2 best teams in the competition.
Yep,
Maybe not
yep.
maybe not the 2 exact favorites to win it on the basis that the bracket is just brutal, but we can come to after we've covered all the games, we can definitely come and look at the actual overall bracket because the implications of that are wild.
Yep, definitely. Because I guess if we want to look at the next matchup, if it's Vitality and Navi, if you'd asked me last week who would win between Vitality and Navi, I'd be like, it's Vitality cut and dry. There's absolutely no way on God's good earth
Yeah,
Navi can even hold a candle to them right now. But their form has been better than I anticipated in this event.
Navi, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I don't think they've looked too hot, and they did lose the Spirit
yeah, of
in that
course.
2-0,
And I
and
think that was a 2-0 as well.
it was, yeah. They ultimately go. I mean, it was pretty life and death with G2.
Hmm.
Like going life and death with this G2 roster isn't exactly a positive sign, and I'll say that about another team that we'll come to. Like
Ooh, breadcrumbing.
it's the Mongols. We'll get there.
Yep.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
they've got to the playoffs, and that like it's not even a bad result for for the sort of year that this lineup has had. Like I still don't think it's like enough to save them.
No, no, like I don't think that they'll beat Vitality. Like I
No,
don't even really think that they'll make them sweat,
no,
but I think it's not as 13-0-y as it was this time last week.
no, definitely not. Like but again, there really only should be one winner in this one. Um,
Hmm.
Vitality, just looked as a collective, just look really good. Apex is playing individually really strong. Like Mezzi's their lowest rated player at the minute. I think I wrote something about it the other day where it was like he's got a 1.03 rating Mezzi, which for his roles is fine. But
Yeah,
Apex just continues to overperform.
which as we've said before is from an IGL, I feel like there's an extra level of impressiveness on top of that.
Yeah.
When you're
What
trying, because we've also said previously about how Messi has improved massively in the last year. Like, yes, he might have
yeah.
been putting up these sorts of numbers a year ago, and people were saying he's the weakest member of the team. And even if he's weakest now, that performance is still good enough that
Yeah,
he's got
definitely.
the role in the team and he deserves it.
Just as a little aside, what do you think of the jersey?
Don't get me started. The downgrade
I
of the century, man. I hate it. Oh my god, like they Vitality sent me one of like like the lovely black jersey with like the subtle yellow, the
yeah,
V.
yeah.
I love that jersey. I wear it to the gym every single week. This is the biggest downgrade in Counter-Strike history. I hate it.
Can I give you a hot take?
I hate it, man. It's
I really like
awful.
it. I really
What?
like it. Yeah.
That is that's the most L take you've ever had on this podcast. That is insanity.
I think it's real. Like anything with a collar, I am just a proper sucker for. I think it's so like varsity. I think it's so
Are you
cool.
telling me that you would spend $70 on that jersey and you would wear it round the streets? You
I
wouldn't
would.
wear it to anywhere just not at an event.
Well, it's very bright, but like,
Exactly.
yeah, I do quite like it. I'm sorry.
Well, you're insane.
Yeah, it's just very varsity. It's very, I to be honest, they brought it out for Dallas, and I thought this is a one-time thing. I thought they were going to wear it for Dallas, and that
Yeah.
was sort of the style they were going for.
See,
But it,
that's the thing.
but
Like,
it's,
I also like a collar. Like, I like the collars on the jerseys. It's just the yellow, man. It's so
yeah,
yellow.
it's very yellow. It's bold, but like
Yeah.
it's it's blinding. Imagine that
If
on
I
the
was
other
one of
side.
their players and I had to go from wearing that black one to wearing the yellow one, I'd be rethinking my contract. I'd be like, I cannot deal with this. It's awful.
I mean, but imagine like you're Navi and you're on the other side of the server, and this blinding jerseys standing up on the other side screaming at you. Like, yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed my shot because I was too busy like seeing Apex jumping up and he's blinded me with his yellow shirt.
it's. I'm sure there's method to the madness. No, I quite like it. Not to sort of derail the actual conversation of substance.
Well, I feel very passionately about it, as you can
I
tell.
I had
You can
seen
rest
some
assured we
comments of
will not be
yours.
getting any other than black hot spawn hoodies. That's all we're
Right,
getting.
but you can't promise me a bright deep red. Oh,
No.
terrible. So boring, so boring.
Honestly. Well, that aside, Navi's jersey is much better. It's still bright, but
Navi's
it's
is
not.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Navi's is cool. Not quite not quite as much of a statement as Vitality is. But what would be a statement is that if they were able to sort of actually get past them, because then if you're Navi and you've knocked out the big favourites, even if you have to face Spirit or Mars on the other side, you're just like, Jesus, like we've
The
done the hard
confidence boost
part.
of the century. Yeah.
Yeah, like we've done the hard job in theory.
Hmm.
Obviously, they've already, like I say, they've already lost the Spirit at this event, so like nothing's going to be easy. But
No, no.
I am, yeah. I mean, I'm so interested like about the future of the roster as a whole. Really, like the assumption here is that like anything less than a win and there's changes,
Mm.
which is quite strange to think about.
It is because I really respect stable rosters in esports. Like they're
Mhm.
not common, like not just in Counter-Strike, but in all games. Like
Yeah,
rosters that stay together for that amount of time, they are rare. But I also think as a fan and someone who interacts with the team, like as a fan of the team instead of just being a fan of good Counter-Strike, having
yeah,
that stable roster is really important. And like I respect Navi for doing that.
yeah. I don't even know how long it's been together now. Probably a year and a half. Ever since
Yeah,
Simple
which
left, longer.
sounds like nothing, but in esports terms, that's a really long
That's
time.
a lifetime, an absolute
Yeah.
lifetime. Like,
If you were going to make a call, if they were going to replace somebody,
ugh.
who would be your bet?
This is like an entire conversation by itself because like the upside to everyone is so big. Like when it
Mhm.
works, like
Yeah.
I think JL, I think he was what fourth best player of last year, I believe. But
Yeah,
you
I
could
think
look at
so.
him.
Yeah.
You could look at him this year. Let's have a look what his rating is for the last, say, 3 months. 1.04. It's just very average for like someone that had started taking star roles on the team.
Yeah.
And then there's Ema, also 1.04. But both of these players were putting up like 1.10, a little
Yeah.
bit above last year.
I do feel that as you're watching Counter-Strike, there is you find yourself in or I find myself in situations where if I'm watching a certain type of game and I don't know, let's say you've got like a 2-1 advantage. If the one is a certain player, then you're like, this is still competitive. But if the one is a certain other player, you're like, I may as well just look away from now. Like,
Yeah.
and JL, maybe around Copenhagen last year,
Yeah.
was the type of player where you'd keep watching the round because there's a possibility that
Yeah.
he could go ahead and clutch that. But I just haven't seen that from him in the last 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, like, wonderful as well. I've just looked. Also 1.04. Like, that trio are basically the
Mm,
exact same rating over the last 3 months. But, 1.04 for an AWPer that you want to be helping you contend for trophies. Like, that is. If I'm replacing one, it probably is wonderful.
yeah,
But who's replacing with? Like, the AWP,
that's exactly it. Yeah.
the open scene at the minute is like notoriously weak.
Hmm.
If only they had a franchise player on the bench who is currently a major
If
player.
only.
Like, if only. But
Yeah,
I
just
don't
just
think that
waiting
will
in the
happen.
wings, ready cooked. Here we
Yeah,
go.
I
Nothing like
think
that.
that story's done though. I think
Yeah.
he didn't get on the plane for Sydney like nearly 2 years ago now, and that's
Hmm.
just like the sort of thing where like you just don't, as an organization, you just don't trust the player afterwards, no matter like who they are.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's understandable from an org's perspective. Like, as much as any fan would love to see that, you have to think of the org has to think of itself and its own health at
yeah,
a certain
definitely.
point. So,
So, but they could literally win the major, and like, why would you make changes when you've won a major? Like, you just wouldn't. I mean, see, it has
no, no, of
happened.
course not.
It has
Yeah.
happened, but you probably shouldn't. Like, remember Vitality benched Dupree 2 years ago? Like, but that was very different circumstances in that they were buying Flames, who was like 6, 7 years younger than Dupree, maybe more, 8 years younger than Dupree.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that obviously we're not privy to, but when
yeah,
it comes
hundred
to these
percent.
kinds of decision-making processes. But
Yeah, we're talking about it. They all might already know, like what's
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we're always the last people to find out, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and with good reason. But
yeah.
yeah, it would.
So
Yeah, I would suck. It would suck to see them break up, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
no, not at this point. But yeah, that is everything Navi Vitality. There's a Vitality go into its favourites, but would be an interesting upset more just for the implications fit like down the line in the major.
Yeah,
And it would be bad news for my pickums on someone to get, so that means it's obviously going to happen. Navi are obviously
it's
beating
like a
Vitality.
specifically potent caster curse is the Dan's Pickums curse. Like,
I used to be good at this, believe it or not. I used to
yep.
be okay at this. Um, well, the second game, so Navi Vitality's third. The
Mm.
second game is Furia v Pain.
This is the one that I have the hardest time calling.
Really?
Mm. Yeah,
S-
and I think it's maybe because. Mm, what am I trying to say? I just think that the gameplay is too unpredictable for me personally to be able
Yeah,
to call which way this would go.
we're getting an interesting Brazilian derby here.
Mm.
So you've got on one side Furia with 3 Brazilians, Pain with 3 Brazilians. Um, I believe Pain have DGT and Davideus, who are Uruguayan and Chilean respectively.
Yep.
whereas Fury have obviously gone European with Yakinda and Molodoi. And
Hmm.
ironically, the European players have, uh, sorry, the non-Brazilian players, I should say, like on both sides of the aisle, have sort of been the difference makers for these teams. But you're still
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of pegging it as this like really intense Brazilian rivalry. But I'm sure that's good for Brazilian fans to know that no matter what, you're getting a team in the semi-finals.
Yeah, definitely.
But Fury are very much the big brand in Brazil, the big team, Fallen, the legend, the professor.
Yep.
There's a video on YouTube somewhere of like I think it's 6, 7 years ago of Fallen teaching like a bunch of Brazilian youngsters like how to play CS, and it's like one of the kids is Snow on Pain. Like, yeah,
Really?
it's like he's like this like 11-year-old kid, like
Oh, now they'll face off at a
in
major.
a major
I kind of
playoffs.
love that.
Like it's wild, like the
Yeah.
storylines. But
He
that's
has
sort
a
of
real,
just
like, the student has become the master
yeah,
opportunity here.
yeah. But Fallen, like he's just the guy. Like he last won a major, what, 9 years ago? He obviously won two back to back with Luminosity and SK back
Mm,
when Brazilian CS was like dominant.
yeah.
Obviously, very different story nowadays. Man, what a fucking storyline that would be if Fallen could get to a major final in big
Yeah, I mean,
2025.
interestingly, with all the other games that we've talked about so far, we've got their ability to then go on to get to the final, and didn't really think to talk about that with these two.
You know, no one's really expecting either of Furia or Pain to make it, no matter who they face in the semi final, whether it be FaZe or the Mongols. But like seeing Fallen be in a major final in 2020, that would be surreal. Like he hasn't won anything in so long.
Yeah.
Like nothing of note, I should say. He won at least a Masters Expo in 2023, but it has been largely since like 2017, 2018. Like
Yeah,
he's
in
just a
Counter-Strike
legend.
years, that's a very long time, and to be mm, aging is the word I'm looking for. Like at a rate of Counter-Strike, it's a
He's
lot older.
he's 34. Yeah,
Yeah.
like he was, you know, when he was winning majors, he was 25, which for some
Hmm.
players is literally the end. Like in this
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
so
Like when
fair
reaction
play.
times are everything, the younger the better, really.
And he's done it reinventing himself as like
Mhm.
obviously he's always been the AWP IGL, that's been his thing, but now that the time has come to like hand off the AWP to a European prodigy, as happens to every great player at some point. It's like he's now taking on the rifle. He's playing really rough anchor roles and he's putting up good numbers.
Mm,
You know, it would just be an incredible chapter in like his story.
yeah.
And you know, uh, I joked like recently. He's been dreaming of being on the beach and adding years onto his career. I still don't think that's the case. Like as much as I was saying that jokingly, like I think he will retire within this year. I
Yeah.
do wonder if out of all the odds he wins the major,
Goes
like
out on a high.
does he just retire?
Yeah.
Like do you just go nope? Like it does not get any better than this. Like
I mean, he would be right. I
yeah,
think if
100%, yeah.
you're I just
But
think, yeah, there is a very much like play CS long enough to see yourself become the villain.
yeah,
And he has a chance for that not to be the end of his story.
so that is an excellent storyline.
Hmm.
But what is also interesting here is that these teams played in stage two.
Yeah.
So that was in the BO1s. Payne actually took that one 13-11.
Hmm. It's close.
Very close. Furia basically that's a battle back from like 11-7 in that one to even make it close. But that one finished 13-11. Snow actually had a really good game in that one, which sort of hasn't really been his thing recently. Like last 3 months, he's put up a 0.88 rating. Snow at only 18 years
Oof.
old, so he's really struggled to make that step up.
Yeah. What map
Um,
was that BO1 on?
ooh, I had it there. I did have it there, mirror from a match page. Let's have a look. That was on Dust 2. You'll definitely see that again. Both these
Yeah,
teams
yeah.
love to play Dust 2. You'll definitely see that in this best of 3. But I've just got a feeling like that this will be the only 2-0 to Furia. I think they'll,
Ah, okay.
even though like you've got that sort of result under your belt. I think asking for another sort of out of character performance from Snow,
Mhm.
it probably won't happen again. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I mean, it's really difficult to predict because the fact that it has to be an out of character performance already means that you're not set up in the way that you want to
yeah,
be at this stage of a major.
and the fact that you sort of it was an out of character performance that only dragged you to like 13-11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's an interesting rematch. Like I like the narrative, I like the all Brazilian angle of it, and it's good for the region.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there'll be some form of VRS implications for teams getting to the semi-finals from that region. For the next
Yeah,
major and all
yeah.
that stuff. There's a lot going on, a lot of movement in that at the moment.
There really
But
is, in a way that I was reading the announcement about the changes that were made yesterday, and I was like, the implication of this is not processing in my brain.
right now, I mean, we can touch on this really quickly.
Mm,
Right now, it only really affects like a couple of teams.
yeah,
So essentially, what we're talking about is the idea that teams can no longer represent multiple regions in the VRS list. So, for example, if you had 2 European players, 2 North American players, and 1 Asian player, you were able to just pick what like major qualifier you played in.
yeah.
You were just able to choose, and that would allow you to use 2 European players in the European MRQ. Oh, sorry, the North American MRQ.
Okay,
And
yeah.
you'd obviously just choose to go to North America because it's weaker.
I mean, an easier region, a better chance of
Or
qualifying.
in Liquid's case, like they were qualifying off the back of having 2 North American players, but they were directly qualifying because they were at the
Mhm.
top of the list. Whereas now, if you have that regional split, you just automatically get assigned to the strongest region, and Valve define that as like the team that get the most slots at the major.
Yep, yep.
So Liquid now will just go. Well, they'll probably still get invited directly based on where they are in the VRS, but it's going to be harder for them to maintain that spot because
Yes.
they're not just top of NA, so you're there by default. Like it's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I
So
guess it stops you playing this sort of thing strategically
yeah,
and just you have to get there on the merit of good CS.
yeah.
Um,
But you don't get to say, or we're Liquid, we represent North America, we represent the best North America Counter Strike has to offer, and then you come
yeah.
into it with like 2 European players and an Asian player, and
Hmm.
not 2 people from your actual region. You don't sort of get to like cosplay as a North American team anymore. You have to walk the walk if you want to get the spots, which I think is a good way of going about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from what I've seen, the reactions to this are saying like it's actually that Valve have made,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not often that people say that. So
I mean, Wildcard have been affected as well, and there's a
yeah.
grey area. Like, so if I'm looking at Wildcard's roster, so they've got a Canadian and a North American, but they
Hmm.
also have Sonic, who's South African, so he doesn't count, but he's lived in NA for 10 years. So
Oh,
his whole career has been built in North America, but literally
yeah.
because of a flag next to his name. So there's a grey area which is tough to handle, and I
Mm,
don't envy Valve on that because Wildcard now have to go through the European system.
yep.
But there has to be like a line drawn somewhere because if you just go, well, he's been here, so we'll make that exception, blah blah
Yep.
blah.
Yep.
Like
I mean, if you make an exception once, then you basically have to make it forever,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's not ideal when you're organizing an event like a major, which is so important to
yeah,
so
yeah.
many people.
But yeah, coming back to the major games,
Mm.
there's not much more to say really on the major thing. It's an interesting little tidbit, but it's nothing that will sort of affect us, for a good 4 or 5 months at this point. But yeah, I think in terms of Fury of Pain, I think I've covered everything I would like to speak about, I believe. How about yourself?
Good, and that means FaZe and the Mongols are up.
Oh yeah, here we go. So basically, the winner of this match should theoretically have a route directly to the final.
Okay.
Uh, I would say so. Whoever wins this comes up as big favorites
Yep.
in whatever comes next. But like I've said, this is the major of just stupid things. So you can expect FaZe to be taking this one comfortably because that would be the dumbest narrative possible, the funniest
Yeah,
narrative possible.
and I think it's we were saying sort of last week that even if FaZe don't make it to the finals, just the fact that I would be like the fans who are going to get to see Simple playing on um on a stage. Like that's
The
going
the
to be huge
hype,
for the fan experience. Like it's
yeah,
enormous.
the hype is going to be absolutely immense. Simple
Yeah,
has looked pretty good, so I'm happy to see that he's put up a 1.15 in the last 3 months.
it's not nothing.
Yeah, so he's doing really
I think
well.
Simple would be really mad if he heard me say that
Yeah,
performance is not nothing.
no, but FaZe's last game in the major was against the Mongols,
Yeah,
which obviously FaZe won 2-0. Yes, and it
yeah.
was convincing as well. So it was a 13-4 and a 13-11. I wouldn't expect any changes in sort of the map pool there. I'd expect them to just go Anubis and Ancient to kick it off.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean they were sort of two of Simple's best games since coming into FaZe. So let's see if he has sort of like that similar, I'd say overperformance, but it is sort of how he's playing at the moment.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say that this will be closer than last time because the Mongols, decent team, they've got such big performance issues that like every time you come to a playoffs, you have to be like, oh, the Mongols, they're good. But like,
Yeah. It's the consistency to get to the playoffs and not the consistency to go even one step further than that.
I was gonna say this in like an article last night. I didn't in the end. I'll say it here. They're like they're the kind of performance issues that like no doctor has a pill for, and they're just consistent. Like
Yeah.
they're just so consistent. Like every time they get to the playoffs and they're just fucking flaccid. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's hard to watch. And like the biggest offender, sadly, is Senzu, who's like a really
Yeah.
strong performer, but he's got this like again just this consistent stage issue that he can't get over,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
And
it's such a different environment. And like, lest we forget, the Mongols haven't really been playing in this tier of Counter-Strike for that long at all.
no,
And they actually have very little stage experience, particularly on this scale.
yeah,
And it's like, if you have problems with nerves or whatever it is when it comes to a stage, there are very few opportunities for you to practice getting over that.
yeah, because you just never get better. But obviously,
Yeah.
it's a busy scene at the minute. So if you're consistently in playoffs, you will be all right. But I think
Yeah.
my big sort of question mark, obviously, with the Mongols, you talk about the stage stuff, you talk about the fact they've already been beaten by FaZe, but the big concern for me is like their game against G2.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say, oh, I'm concerned because they beat a team 2-0, which like sounds bizarre. And they won the first map 13-6, and then the second, I don't know if you watched this. I don't know if you know the
No, I
fact.
didn't see this one.
So in CS2 major history, it's the longest ever map. So it was
Oh, I
28
think yes.
25.
Yeah, I saw like the
Yeah,
pictures on Twitter, but I didn't see the actual game. Yeah.
53 rounds it was. I just wanted to go to bed. 53 rounds. So Senzu, we were just talking about, got 56 kills.
Whoa, okay.
He had 36 going into regulation, like going into overtime. Like he was
Yeah.
playing insane. So
He was like, right, guys, every opportunity, I'm going to take it in this overtime. Like, Senzu, could you have taken it in regulation? No.
if you're doing that against G2, like this G2, I have reservations, let's say, about your odds going forward.
Yeah.
About your odds going up against this FaZe team that have already beat you,
Mhm.
let's say. So yeah, I don't I'm pulling for FaZe here. I'm like I don't really care who wins, but like in terms of who I expect to win, I would put my money on FaZe definitely. And
That's
even
it.
if
And I think
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I mean, at this point in the tournament, as we get to this stage in most tournaments, I find, at least the ones that I've been to, where you just want good CS at the end.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
don't want 2-0s, you want good CS.
yeah,
And I think we're, I'm not going to say we're guaranteed that, but I think it's not far off.
yeah. I mean, no matter what, there's no saving my pick'em. So like, even if FaZe going to win the entire thing, like nothing is now. So maybe I can have some dignity, maybe. But
You're a writer. You can spin the narrative. If you know anything about CS, you major.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
make the rules.
yeah. But again, what is interesting here is like, say the Mongols go through and say Furia goes through.
Mm.
Furia have already beaten the Mongols this tournament, like 6-2
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. It wouldn't be cut and dry,
No,
not by any
so
stretch.
yeah, I mean that is essentially it in terms of the matches. But like we can talk a little bit about the actual bracket itself and how
Yeah.
wild that is. Because we have a situation now where one of Pain, Furia, FaZe, or the Mongols is guaranteed to get to the final. So like the storylines across the board are amazing
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Pain and the Mongols have never been to a major final. FaZe
Yeah.
have, you know, lost the last two major finals despite arguably not being pegged to be there at all. And
Yeah.
you've got Frozen, who's lost two major finals in a row. You've got Carrigan, who's been in so many major finals. Same with Rain and Elysian
Hmm.
Simple, who it's very easy to forget they got to a major final together with Team Liquid in 2016.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I mean,
So
to be doing that again 9 years later
yeah,
is
yeah,
actually really impressive. And I remember we were saying this a few episodes ago where we were like, if you are going to have these top four teams, at least don't put them on opposite ends of the bracket so they
yeah.
always meet in the grand final. That's how you end up with these shitty finals where it's just the same teams over and over and over,
Yeah.
and it's boring. So
I
I'm
think
really hyped that it's guaranteed to not be one of these top four teams.
yeah. I think whoever is on that side of the bracket and whoever is on the other side of the bracket, like whoever's on the other side come in as favourites. Like it does not matter who. Like one of
Yeah.
Spirit, Navi, Vitality, and Mars.
Yeah.
I think whoever comes in there are the favourites, and it doesn't matter which of the other four they're against.
Yeah, that's it. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Vitality. Like that's sort of what I'm expecting at this point
Sure.
because yeah, they had a little bit of a shaky start to the major, but then they just like whipped straight back into shape. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's not been flawless, but you can only maintain flawless in Counter-Strike for so long.
Well, I mean, back on the topic of Vitality, I almost like their chances more now that they've lost
Mm,
because when they were sort of on this streak, this 30 match win streak, that was something looming over them in every match.
yeah,
Like it
it's
didn't matter
pressure.
what. So if you say
Hmm.
they won three straight in the groups and went through 3-0, then they're on a 33 match streak. And the question then isn't can we get through the quarterfinals to the semi-finals? The question is can we keep can we make it a 34 match streak, which is like its own pressure on
Yeah,
top of
it
the pressure you're
absolutely
gonna
is.
make.
A pressure that you don't need on the
Yeah.
biggest stage in Counter-Strike. Like you need to head in the game and
So
without that additional stress.
so they've ripped the bandage off and then come
Yeah.
through it unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, if they were going to lose that streak to a team, it's probably a good thing that they lost Legacy and
Yeah.
not somebody that they're going to be facing in this playoffs bracket, because then
Yeah.
you don't have that additional mental, we already lost to them this tournament
Yeah.
on top of that.
So yeah. Do you have any final predictions then? Are you going Vitality?
I think I am sticking with Vitality, you know.
Okay. So my pick'ems, I've gone phase. I know that all the logic in me tells me it's going to be Vitality.
Yep.
So with all that said, I'm going to go Spirit. Like,
Yep, yep.
I
You
just,
picked your hill, you gotta die on it now.
I think the idea of Donk coming in and being, so he's what, 18 and a half?
Yep.
Being like a 2-time major winner, 2 times major MVP.
Mhm.
I think I like the narrative of that more than I like any of the others, I think.
Yeah, and it's
So,
not impossible by any stretch of the imagination.
yeah.
It could very realistically happen. And I wouldn't be mad if Spirit won. Like, I love
Yeah.
watching them play.
No, I'm all for
Donk is a joy to watch, so
I'm all for, building the legacy, and I think that is just part of that. So, yeah, I'm gonna go tentatively Spirit, and if you followed my phase pick'ems, good luck.
I was going to say, if there's one thing we know at the end of this podcast, is that Spirit are not going to win because
Yeah.
Dan says they are.
Well,
So
I mean, I have essentially just like predicted that yes, one of 3 teams are going to win the major, one of the 3 favorites. So like I'm playing all sides, so that I
there's 8
always come out on top.
it's these 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna play all sides, and
You could be a bases. I respect it.
then I think
Alrighty, well, I guess we'll find out on Sunday if Dan is going to be right. Thank you for joining
yeah.
us again for this episode of Hot Takes, and we will see you guys next week.
I was told to add some music here, but they didn't tell me what kind of song. So I'm just gonna sing. Make sure you like and subscribe.